So next we have Sam, Sahni, and Dean Rikanovic from Unispace. And just a little bit about Sam. He's Unispace's regional principal strategy for Europe. He's based in the London studio, highly experienced with consulting and construction. And Dean has 15 years of professional experience as an innovative designer working across Australia. We might get some comments, maybe get some questions. Okay. And internationally on a number of award-winning projects. So welcome them both.
A decade ago, robots still seemed pretty limited. Now, not so much. And computers don't just win chess anymore, they can win Jeopardy!
Watson, what is the elegance of the hedgehog?
They can win Go!
There are about 200 possible moves for the average position in Go.
This is all happening really fast, and it's causing some to forecast a future where humans can't find work.
There will be fewer and fewer jobs that a robot cannot do better.
And what are the people going to do?
That's the $64,000 question.
I believe this is going to be one of the biggest challenges we face in the coming decades.
People who are not just unemployed, they are unemployable.
But if you ask economists, they tend to have a pretty different view from the futurists and Silicon Valley types.
Do you worry that new technologies could cause mass unemployment?
Yes.
No. Bigger question, the $64 million question we are here to answer and demonstrate to you that perhaps there are two sides of camps that are very confused, and they're confusing all of us. Just looking back a little bit, what we've seen is we used to drive technology. We invented technology. We invented those tools that were helping us to do particular jobs. But we are seeing that equation reversing now, where technology is beginning to lead us a lot more. What do we mean by it? As we sort of progress more from process automation, think about the self-checkout at your favorite supermarket, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work, is a good example of an automated, self-driven process. As we move out of that and more into machine learning, intelligent cognitives, intelligent decision-making, that equation is going to reverse a lot more further. From where we stand today, the famous economists are very confused, but the future is both troubling and exciting, and there are these two distinct camps. Let's cover them one by one. Troubling. Daniel Susskind, my favorite young economist from Oxford, he calls it the Terminator myth that says the machines will rise up and take our jobs. Yes, he is scaremongering, but I think there's a huge political shift there as well. We've stopped blaming the immigrants here. We're blaming the machines now. #Brexit. But there is a lot of scaremongering. And then newspapers, right? The Observer, the Telegraph are picking up those type of statistics, those type of stories, and fueling them more. Huge number of job losses, which are about 7 times that of the global economic crisis in this country alone, are predicted to be lost over 10 years. That's a huge amount of scaremongering. There are some truths to it. Process automation has led to a lot of physical process-based labor disappear. We also see that affecting knowledge work. Why? There is a concept called lump of labor fallacy, where if I and you work together, I'm being given more work, which is basically taking your work away, putting less food on your plate. As a human being, I react in a different way. I think, hang on, am I taking my colleague's work away, or should we just share it? That's what human beings are all about. We work together. But machines don't think like that. And because of that, what we'll begin to see is a lot more work being shifted in introverted commas. But because of that as well, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg are talking about universal basic income. There are experimentations happening in California, in Scandinavia. It seems to work much better. But let me remind you, we've seen this twice before in our lifetimes, in our history as human beings. First, when we moved out of farms into factories, and the second time when we moved from factories to workplaces. The key difference is we had 100 years to move out of farms into factories. It was a slow transition, and then it took us 50 years to move out of factories into workplaces. This time, the time is much lesser. We're talking about a 5 to 10 year interval. Marie said 52% of us need to be retrained to do our jobs by 2025. That's a scary stat, right? So it fuels the scaremongering camp. But let me tell you, human beings find easier solutions, they react much differently to how machines do. When we moved out of farms to factories, in those 100 years, as the age of the workers rose from 12 years of average age working in a farm to actually age of 16, 17, starting to work in factories, we saw a huge amount of high school phenomenon, as they call it. People started going through higher education because kids couldn't enter the factory at the age of 12. And we moved from factories to workplaces. We saw a university phenomenon kick in. Higher education was pumped through over the last 100 years. And there's another example of that. In the US, the amount of tellers and ATMs have risen both. ATMs, where you draw out cash, has gone up 4,000%, which would make you think, why the hell would I go to that bank and speak to a human being when I can interact with the machine more? But actually, number of tellers has went up by 200%. Why? Think about your favorite bank branch. Now you walk in, you get an experience, the word of the day. They come to you, they resolve your problems. If you're with a good bank, probably much quicker than others, but they do have jobs to do. They haven't lost their jobs. Thinking about what that technology can do, where we both sit, we think it's a huge opportunity to think about complementarities that technology can bring in between human and machine interaction. A couple of examples here. As we move from sort of the driver making decisions more towards sat-nav, and from sat-nav in the future, probably very near future, moving to driverless cars, the amount of time and the amount of experience it can give back to humans is amazing, where machine can take away a lot of things. I remember being a kid at the back of the car where my parents were sitting in the front, my father driving, my mom trying to read the map upside down, couldn't understand, arguing with my father stopping at every junction, asking for directions from people. And now I've grown up and I drive a lot, and my father is surprised how I can drive across the world without any directions or anything. He's forgotten that I just input stuff into the GPS and it drives me. But what he doesn't know is my kid will actually sit in a car and doesn't have to do anything at all. That adds huge amounts to the amount of experience human beings go through. And in our industry ourselves, as we move from sort of drawing board to CAD, AutoCAD, Revit, you want to call it, and now moving to smarter, rapid prototyping. We were discussing AI with you this morning. The truth is it's already here. At Unispace, we are using AI to rapid prototype and produce test fits very quickly. We insert the data which we collect, and we develop certain relationships between various spaces, and we can produce something like that in less than 2 weeks, which is driven by data. So we are using AI. Does it make our designers jobless? No. It makes them much more fruitful in what they're really capable of, adds to that degree of capability. And what does it do to organizations? As the amount of input going in, comparing that to the applied effort and the measure of output that's coming out is speeding up a lot. New products are being created, new industries are being created, which we are also calling disruptive businesses coming out. Technology is pushing us a lot more in different directions. Some of our clients, Woodside, Dean is going to talk about how this complementarity has added to their drilling accuracy, what it does to the business. Philip Morris International, we've been working with how they're actually using data to drive customer experience, sell more products. Colibra, a data company, working from that angle. Or Deliveroo, simply telling smallish restaurants what food to sell at what time. That's what technology is beginning to do when you actually play with human and machine complementarity. So there are two key takeaways from my side. First one is the word used a lot today, human-centric. So we do not have to forget what makes us really human, and how do we provide those environments that actually drive humans to achieve a lot more. A couple of buzzwords here, but I interact a lot with some key people who are actually producing a lot for organizations, and they tell me the primary limiter of innovation is not lack of talent or ideas. It's actually lack of empowerment. It's actually lack of trust. So how does the workplace enable us to do that is the first question, which we've been answering for the last 10 years. But the second key point is how do we leverage the overlap between what Marie called work, workplace, and individuals using those spaces coming together through smarter technologies. How can the man and the machine help each other? And there are several ways to look at it. I think the IoT aspect has been a bit old. It's giving us a lot more data. We don't know what to do with that data. We are stuck in data privacy wars at the moment. But actually think about the user that sits at the heart of it. When it actually is thought about in sense of a platform and constant insights are being sought, building is being transformed, workplaces are being constantly transformed, you can do a lot more. Let me give you a couple of examples. The basic level is the BMS systems, building management softwares, etc., that we've been used to. I think we've been sold IoT to death. It produces a lot of data. We don't know what to do with it. Now we are stuck in the next level world where everybody's selling us an app. An app can do something. Yes, it can. It can enhance user experience. But when we really are talking about complementarities, we are talking about what can be done with regards to the technology complementing human beings in a different way. Previous presenter talked about intelligent automation, insights changed into certain elements that can really extend human capability. I would love to have a system which we're developing now where the system knows that my flight's been canceled and it rebooks me on one. Or it knows certain behavior patterns, it makes decision for itself. Or simply, the barista knows my name, the one who I see every day for a coffee. Simple elements like that can add a huge element of transformation. Now let's show you how we've done that.
Okay, g'day London. My name's Dean. I am Australian. Look, I'm here to really take you through a project that Unispace has designed. We're calling it the campus of the future. However, it's a future that is now finished. This is the building here, this large building with Woodside labelled on top of the building. We finished this project in November last year, so it's about 12 months in. And what I want to take you through is certainly a little bit of background of the project and a little bit more of a focus on the technology. However, there is a balance to the technology, and that's an important part of this conversation. The project is based in Perth, Australia, the most isolated city in the world. It's actually 14,000 kilometres to London. And it takes you 5 hours to fly from Perth to any other sort of major city. And as you can see there, the map of Australia. However, Perth is very renowned for their commodities. They're very rich in their natural resources, from iron ore to certainly oil and gas. And of course, over here in the bottom right, some amazing beaches and some pretty nice weather. Most of the time, blue skies, so the total opposite to what London has to offer. Back in 2013, when this project started, so Unispace, we were the workplace strategists and the designers for the project, and I was certainly the lead designer for the project. We had a lot of engagement with the CEO, and what they quickly realized was oil and gas won't be around forever, and they're predicting by 2030 they'll be into new commodities, new renewable commodities. And as you can see here, what was publicized in The Economist this year is that oil is no longer the most valuable resource. It's actually data. So Woodside as an organization are now really starting to focus on data as their new commodity portfolio introduction. So the new super campus that we created had a major role to play in this. Over on the left, you can see the super campus. That is a BIM model of the project itself. Woodside is Australia's largest oil and gas company. They've been around for probably about 70 years. They turn over about 15 billion US a year. However, what this project has influenced is new thinking, a new way of working, a new approach to the future. And what you see here is the HQ itself. 4 buildings, probably about 70,000 square meters, 680,000 square feet. 5,000 to 6,000 people work and collaborate in this building every day. What the building has also allowed for is new skill sets, new growth, new acquisition into the future of Woodside as well. So that adaptability and flexibility we've embedded into the building as well. It's a full agile environment, so Woodside shifted from previously being very fixed, very rigid, very silo, into this new agile way of working, which we've called Right Space. So a strategically created model for Woodside specifically. We've also achieved leading standards in wellbeing. It's well accredited, and it's also 6-star Green Star, so we've achieved, in Australia, a NABERS rating, which is probably the equivalent to BREEAM LEED over here. We've also future-proofed it. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. And a little bit of the focus today will be about the advanced technology that has been embedded into this building. So as I mentioned earlier, Peter Coleman really started to look at the business model, and the business of their business is certainly changing at a rapid pace. They're radically changing, and they radically need to change now. We were very lucky. Our day-to-day project lead was Sean Gregory, who is Woodside's Chief of Technology. So we were very fortunate to work with this genius daily. He spends probably half of his year in Houston at NASA. And this was his first word. We need to design for 2035. So let's future-proof the shit out of this. And that's what we did. So some of the key objectives that we sort of created at the beginning was integrate or weave advanced technology into the building to support day-to-day experience, but certainly productivity. Designed for people, so it was very human-centric, at a focus on creating a balanced environment from tech enabling to well-being and supporting people in the workplace. Create unique destinations to foster collaboration, because that was very much the forward way of the business. Designed for the millennials, but let's not forget the past, because we've got people in the business that have been around for 60 years who are key to knowledge, and that knowledge needs to be accessed quickly, and produce a world exemplar campus that can promote the business and attract world talent. Remember, Woodside, Perth is the most isolated city in the world. So how do we attract incredible talent from MIT, for example? This gives you a bit of an idea of the technology ecosystem that was invested into the campus. And it was really an ecosystem that was there to spur collaboration and to spur innovation as well. So really, I won't go through all of them in detail, but the infrastructure was naturally embedded from BMS to middleware platforms. The entire building is IoT networked. We've got some incredible monitoring that provides relevant data daily in real time. We implemented Cisco Spark into this building. Woodside had a strong relationship with IBM and Watson, so Watson is in the building as well. He had some issues in the beginning. I call him a he speaks with an American accent. In the beginning, he was struggling to understand some of the Australian slang. So they needed to reteach Watson some of those key words that were coming from different parts of Australia. So we introduced two other smaller robots, which we called Banjo and Matilda. Also some incredible AI that has been designed to support productivity at work, certainly in a more intuitive way. And the other thing is the building consists of full biometric security system, which is fully frictionless. So at the beginning of the project, the CEO picked up his security pass and he said, guys, this security card, I do not want to see this in the future campus, and threw it away. And then as he left to go out of the room, he couldn't open the door because he needed to go back to pick up his card, which he did. So some amazing technology has been embedded into this building. And at the end, I'll take you through some of the success factors that the technology is producing. And at the beginning, we had to think about the digital best in class. So the brief was very aspirational, was very high. We were dealing with technology that has not yet been seen, let alone back in 2014. So what we did was we brought together the world's best. So we worked with Siemens, obviously with IBM. We brought in Deloitte to support the workplace experience app that we created. Obviously Cisco Spark. We collaborated with Accenture and some other incredible global vendors that included NASA as well. So I'll talk a little bit about NASA in a second. Some of the incredible assisted experiences that the building has to offer, and it's very intuitive to you. So for example, the top section, if you were a rider riding into work at Woodside, there's about 1,000 bike park spots. The weather's pretty amazing, so you're encouraged to ride to work. You would get to the building, you would get to a perimeter, 50-meter perimeter, and the building will network you in automatically. It's detected that it's you, whether it's through an RFID, facial recognition, or your device. If you're carrying that, as you ride down the parking driveway, the garage door will open up automatically. You can open up your app and you can find an available bike park spot. As you go into the change facilities, all towels are provided, so you can obviously just go in and shower after you ride into work. If you've pre-ordered your shirts to be delivered to your locker, there's a site-wide laundromat service that would deliver those shirts to you. And where it gets quite interesting is if you're leaving the change facilities and you're going up to the social collaboration floor, And if you've pre-ordered a latte, you would get to the barista on the level 2 floor, and the barista would greet you by your name and say, "Sam, here's your cafe latte, have a fantastic day." So very intuitive, and obviously we can sort of talk a little bit about the GDPR a little bit later. Woodside also have a strong collaboration with NASA, and this is their robots. In the beginning, it was Rick. So Rick was part of the project team as well. He's about 2 meters tall, weighs about 200 kilograms. As you can see there, he's shaking my hand. He's got some pretty big deltoids. He looks, he can turn, he can speak, he can open up a can of Coke as well. And at the beginning, Woodside looked as Rick as their answer to being the operator on their manless offshore platform, so their rigs. So Rick is now based on the offshore platforms, and from HQ you're able to engage with Rick, and he can go and monitor an issue, or he can turn a valve. And now there's many more of these Ricks. There's about 7 robots. We have Betty, there's a few others. And they've got some interesting future campus roles. There's obviously a concierge that is being provided, but they're also information wayfinders, they're also collaborators. And where it gets quite interesting, we also have a robotics lab in the campus. Rick is now working with other robots to create other robots. So they're now starting to build each other, which is quite interesting. But Sean made it quite clear. He said, look, they'll be the answer to our repetitive tasks, certainly our more dangerous tasks. However, they are not the answer to human creativity, intuity, and also emotion, which means you probably can't go for a beer after work with them. We also introduced Willow, a voice recognition cognitive assistant. So Willow, she speaks with an Australian accent. So Woodside actually engaged with IBM and Watson and created their own cognitive assistant. And she can support you with your day in the life of in the campus or even outside of work. We produced the Woodside app, so a workplace experience app that can support your experience in the campus. Also for guests, if you're coming to the campus, you can certainly pre-provide data, and as you get to the building, the concierge will come and greet you and know your name before you even get into the building. So we created this, which continues to evolve. I think it's at about stage 2.5. So in the beginning, it was about keeping it simple, whether it was room booking, people finding, desk availability. We had Willow. And now it's getting a little bit more sophisticated. They're starting to embed Uber into the app as well. So it's starting to continue. And really quickly, some of the unique ways of working. It wasn't a one-size-fits-all. As I mentioned earlier, 70% of the workforce work in the right space, agile working model, which is a shared desking system. We do have advanced operations, so these would be the special ops spaces that engage with their remote assets, so a really highly focused environment. Very focused, very fixed, and low collaboration. And then we had the executives, 12 of them. In the beginning of the project, we sort of encouraged them to come down lower into the main tower. So we showed them on level 2, and we said, look, we want you to be closer to the public, closer to the people. So in that workshop, they were pretty quiet. And that evening, we got an email from the project lead saying you got 24 hours to put the executives back on the top, or you'll be off the project. So the next day, they came back, and we showed them up on level 29, and we said, look, you're important to the business, you are the leaders, it's all about the value chain cascading down the building, so it's important for you guys to be up the top. And they clapped and they cheered and they signed the brief off. And really quickly, just some imagery of the building now. These are the right space working floors. It gives you a bit of an idea of some of the technology that's assisting the environment. So we have these Cisco Spark rooms that are also voice activated. So you can go in there and connect with people quite effortlessly, remotely as well. This is the view, so a pretty incredible view, brand new building, floor-to-ceiling glazing. We've also got 8,500 plants in the building, and natural light is maximised throughout the building. We've got some incredible innovation centres where you can connect with people in real time, and remote connection is very seamless and very effective. It is fibre, it is 5G future-proof, so the building is pretty connected. We have a staircase that goes up 32 floors, so you can walk up the entire building if you like. And as I mentioned there, the plants themselves, the stair with sensor trackers, so you can bring in some gamification. These were the executive work pods that we created, so we took them out of their offices, so the future was more about permeability, transparency, how do we have access to our leaders. So we designed these bespoke work solutions, which had an open door policy because there wasn't one. Some of the rest of the floor. But what I'd like to highlight is sort of the timeless feel or experience of the design, and the technology essentially is weaved in. It's invisible, it's not prevalent at all or not pervasive. Some more of the environment. And we also created some attraction destinations. So we had a few destinations that we created. We had a social collaboration floor. We had a life and learn floor halfway up the building, and this was tech-free, so we turned off the tech on that floor, and also some co-working. We brought in co-working that allowed them to collaborate with their partners, but also other members of the public. This is the collaboration floor with the barista in the background, who knows your name, it's concierged. It's also a space where semi-public is invited, so kids can come into this environment and feel really natural. It's a space of learning, it's a space of collaboration. We've also got a 24/7 cafe as well. So if you were there working on an incident at 3 o'clock in the morning, you would have access to this cafe also. And also a family welcome area. So mum and dad were really encouraged to bring in their kids, whether it was after work, whether it was on school break, and a space where a lot of adults go and play as well. The co-working for visitors and collaborators. Halfway up the building, we had the life floor, so fully non-tech, a floor designed for ultimate reset. We also had a fireplace. You really don't need a fireplace in Australia, but we brought that in, fueled by Woodside gas. A knowledge zone, so both digital and analog. We've got Watson within this environment as well. And a tech fit zone for all this technology that has been implemented, so an environment where you can go and get assistance and continue to learn about the technology that continues to evolve. Auditorium, and some incredible outdoor environments. So we had a 10,000 square foot outdoor terrace. There was a 30-metre swimming pool with 5 lanes where you could book a lane and go swim for 15 minutes any time of the day. A pretty incredible gymnasium, etc. And really quickly, some of the technology that is now demonstrating the productivity. So as mentioned, Rick is continuing to perform mundane and dangerous tasks. Willow is supporting your daily productivity, and the data that's coming back is that is up by 19%. A more frictionless way to enter the building, so you would just scan your palm vein or your fingertips. There's an AI embedded into the network, and for example, the AI is supporting some of the analysis of seismic data. It's more accurate, it's also more faster, enabling engineers to focus more on other creative solutions. The workplace app and the hyper convenience it's offering in the campus. And the business case at the beginning was how do we find oil faster? How do we drill? How do we strike? And how can we get more accurate? That is now up by 42%. There was a lot of measuring that was done in between, and now post. So I think the business case is doing quite well. And really, there's been some big investment, and we won't go into all of this. But the last one is quite interesting, and it's really a little bit of the topic today. So a lot of AI here, robot, the Internet of Me, IoT, etc., intuitive technology. It's certainly the future. However, what we're seeing the X factor being is the talent that guides it. So what we welcome is the superhuman.
Great. I think we'll finish the presentation there because we've run out of time, but we'll take any questions.
So I have a slight concern about a lack of authenticity. I'll give you 2 examples. One is the bosses wanted to be all involved in this, a fabulous project, yet they locate themselves on level 29, old school. And the barrister doesn't know your name, does he? He gets software assistance because no human can know that number of names. it just feels robotic. It feels unreal somehow. What could you or did you do to get that sort of human interaction and authenticity back?
Sure. You want to go for it first?
Yeah, look, I think what it was an evolution. We've designed this project for about a 25 to 30 year life cycle. What was previous was very silo, very bureaucratic, very presenteeism based. We've shifted into this new way of working. We've taken the leadership through a journey that forced them to change. And yes, they remained on the top floor, but what we focused a lot on was movement and encouraging movement within the leadership. So the idea of the stair was to allow access to the top floor, where previously there was no access to the employees to get to the leadership. There was also a real sort of change, behaviour, encouragement to get the leaders to be walking down the stairs. So there was a big sort of business catalyst for the stair. We had a lot of sort of other environments that encouraged the leaders to get deeper into the business and vice versa. So it was a big step from where they were. We're continuing to work with them. Some of them aren't moving as much, where the CEO is spending most of his time in the 24/7 cafe these days. So the change is an ongoing process. It's an evolution. However, we've also designed the environment to be fully flexible. We'd like for those pods to probably move around the campus. So one day it would be good to get them back down to level 2 or deeper into the business. So that is one thing, as you said, it's giving access both ways. And then, the technology factor, where you might think it's a little bit clinical, or we're using technology to maybe create the serendipitous opportunities, which it is. However, there is a big focus for people to connect with people as well. So there are catalysts within the campus that gets people to be with each other. The focus is for humans to connect with humans, because that's how they will continue to innovate. The robots are there just to assist them, doing it maybe faster, maybe more accurately as well. So sort of get your point, but we've sort of designed something for something ahead, and then we continue to work with the business to adjust, because we're not going to get it right in the beginning, but we've created something flexible that can adjust with where the business is going.
Yeah, I think just to feel that, John, the technology aspects have sort of two options going forward. Either they can completely disconnect humans, or they can try and connect humans. What we're trying to do is trying to connect humans by giving them an option. If you come cycling in every day and I'm the barista, and I know your name is John, first day, 2-3 days I see you, we naturally connect up, because I don't have to see who John is next time, because John's coming in every now and then. Technology has this way. I go to a Starbucks, I can order the app through the app. It has a number on it, which I pick it up at the end. It has the same kind of technology to it, but it does two different things. This is what our intention is. So we're thinking about the whole ecosystem of how it can operate. The other thing is, Perth is one of the most isolated cities in the world. It's 5 hours flight from the nearest next city. So it's not a talent attractor. So we have to give people holistic environments where actually they want to be attracted in, but it's not just about working in oil and gas, it's about thinking holistically. So there are several buckets to technology where certain elements have been signed off, which help the business case for what Woodside stands for. There are other experience-led technologies, and the barista knowing the name is just a small component of a bigger picture.
Yeah, it's clearly a fabulous building, and you had a terrific client and a great brief. How do you address the possible end of big oil and global heating that may put an end to humanity on Earth? How do you address those questions?
Is this the United Nations? No.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're all with what you're saying as well. It's a difficult question. I seem like a Boris Johnson without an answer to that question. I'll lie. No, I won't. For us, it's difficult to push that conversation on a project with a client. We know that certain organizations we are working with are in certain questionable sectors, be it a Woodside Energy, which might be doing oil and gas, be it a Philip Morris that is selling tobacco for hundreds of years, be it another organization who is screwing up investors because they're investing their money and losing it all. It's very difficult for us sometimes to get into those ethical conversations, but the way we see it is understand what are they trying to change within their own industry. So with this project, there are several positive elements to it, where they are de-risking human beings being on oil and gas platforms by applying robotics. The application of technology helps them maintain the environments and constantly analyzes it than human error. So that's been taken away. So it might reduce, I'm guessing here, it might reduce the level of oil spills, etc. And also, what is their level of commitment to robotics to change the sector? Maybe they want to get into renewables, because Tesla has been a part of the story where there's been a lot of experimentation with solar panels and its ability to fuel the building. Certain conversations like this help push it by 2 millimeters. And in a long span of things, we think we can do a lot more. Similar is happening with many other clients we're working with. Philip Morris is trying to come out of cigarette business and do something else. So we've decided to work for them, besides they've been selling tobacco, because they want to do a shift change in what they're doing. Doing something positive is better than doing nothing. That's how we are seeing it. But I don't have the answer to your question, I'm sorry.